What's going on, everybody? We are here. It is Tuesday. And as you guys are saying in the chat, we're still here. Yes, we are. But anyways, glad you guys could join me. Glad to see that you guys are in the chat and I wasn't forgotten or left behind. So I guess that's a positive right there. But glad you guys are here. This is the Watchtower podcast, and this is what we do on Tuesdays is we watch for the signs of the returning of our Lord, and I'll tell you what, man, I'm ready to go home, guys. I'm definitely ready to go home, that's for sure. But either way, glad you guys are here with me if we're not already taken out of here. So glad you guys could join me tonight. We got some stuff to talk about for sure. First things first, though. I made an announcement on my Telegram channel. Make sure you're on my Telegram if you are not on there already. It's linked down below. But I made an announcement on there. I've done some serious housekeeping and what's the word? Remade or did a makeup job, I guess, of all of the artwork and stuff on the channel. So it was kind of a jumbled mess before. Everything was different. Everything was always mismatched. Nothing really going on as far as consistency going. So I wanted to put together something that was consistent, professional looking and whatnot. So the YouTube channel got all new artwork on there. As you can see, the podcast has an actual nicely done display page, thumbnail page for that. I've actually kind of moved my desk around and stuff, and I've got the actual, colors, that aqua teal color going on that the logo has. I'm trying to put that color throughout everything. I redid the bar at the bottom of the screen. All of the thumbnails for the videos that are going to be coming out are all going to be nice in unison, so that everybody knows where they're coming from and all that stuff. So I've really spent a lot of time this week to try and update everything, make it all look good, and all of that stuff. So hopefully with a more professional and more consistent looking artwork and whatnot, we'll be able to branch out a little bit easier, be able to start reaching some people and spread out. So that's kind of the plan with that. So just thought I'd let you guys know what's going on with that, trying to make things a little bit more professional on that front of things. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, so that's all I got with that. Looks like we got the chat here. Kim is here. Sarah is here. Not of this world is here. I was at Dollar General today, and the magazines they literally had to check out Ouija board. Wow. Yeah, that stuff's just becoming more and more mainstream, and now we're entering October, Halloween time, where that stuff's just going to be everywhere, and it's horrific. It is absolutely horrific. I don't know how many warnings I've seen from past Satanists and devil worshippers and whatnot, and they all issue the same warning. They say stay away from Halloween. They come from that time, and then they become Christian, they get saved, and they always warn people don't celebrate anything involving Halloween because you don't know how bad it is. So yeah, it's this is an evil time for believers to be going in with the Halloween stuff going on. So that's for sure. All right, so we got some stuff to talk about. Some actual news regarding Russia and the Ukraine stuff. We haven't talked about that in a while. Really nothing new going on, but as of now, there has been some things that we should probably be paying attention to. So we're going to be talking about some of that stuff. We're also going to be talking about what's going on with Europe. Things are getting very, very, very bad for Europe. So we're going to be talking about that, flipping the switch on... kind of looking at what's going on. Everybody's talking about a possible cyber attack or something, taking something down. But I believe if they just flip the switch and they take care of the energy, that actually kills multiple birds with one stone. And the cyber attack may not actually be needed. So I don't know. Something to think about there. we'll talk about it to see what's going on. Then we've got some other stuff to talk about, like the recent event going on with the Nord Stream pipeline. Some very interesting questions and a mystery going around on that. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I'll give you the information on what I've got, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And then we're gonna also finish it off with the selling of prosperity, and how that has infected the church. So we're going to be talking about that. So, all right. First things first, we're going to talk about what's going on with Russia. So, I find it interesting. What we're going to talk about here is kind of going along with the same timeline of what happened with the Nord Stream thing. We'll talk about that. You can kind of see how it's possibly everything is all getting connected on that, and things are getting ready to kick off. Maybe we'll see. First things first, though, Russia has announced a partial mobilization, adding more soldiers to the fight. So this happened pretty early. I think it was like Wednesday of last week. I know it was like right after or right before the podcast last week. But they announced a full mobilization or a partial mobilization, excuse me. So some numbers involving that and what it means. Mobilization is you're conscripting guys up. You're doing conscription, adding more soldiers from the people. So it's kind of like a draft type of thing. If you're called on, you're technically required to do it. So a couple things to note, numbers to note. Russia has over 2 million reservists already. So the partial mobilization is they're calling up reservists and those who have military experience or training for now. That's why it's a partial. They're not pulling everybody up. So they've got 2 million reservists already. Partial mobilization is going to be a pull-up of 300,000. That's what they're saying. It's not going to be, immediately 300,000 up. It's going to be over time. So they're going to get ready to pull up 300,000. Like I said, they're focusing on reserve and military experience. Also, if they were to go full conscription mobilization, if they were to do a full mobilization, that would grant Russia over 30 million men, 30 million soldiers. So you're talking like World War II numbers as far as that would go. So they're calling up 300,000 more. They're obviously planning for something, and this comes on at the same time as the announcement that the planted Russian officials in the Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporizhzhia regions. So what they did, those are the regions that they've been focusing on. Everybody's talking about how, the special military operation, everybody calls it a war, but it's actually a special military operation. They've been going in there to take care of the eastern side of Ukraine. They wanted to get the eastern side. Well, those are those locations right there. And what they did is they went in, they put in their officials, and now they're doing a annexation referendum voting, which those numbers actually just came in about 2-3 hours ago. So those 4 regions, they had their voting for the annexation referendum to add them to Russia. So that's the whole point of this, is they're trying to get that land back attached to Russia. The Donetsk region, they voted 99% to go back to Russia. Keep in mind, these are planted officials. Not everybody's voting. It's voting and elections don't really go like people think they do. Let's just say that. So 99% voted in favor of joining Russia in the Donetsk region. The Luhansk region voted 98% to join Russia. The Kherson area voted 87% to join Russia, and then the Zaporizhzhia region has voted 93% to join Russia. So all 4 locations have officially voted in favor to join Russia And it is announced, the Kremlin has announced that they will officially be a part of Russia as of October 4th. So very quickly, they're going to be a part of it. So after this happened, you've got Ukraine, you've got all of NATO, all of West basically saying that's illegal. They're not going to recognize that as official. It's the back and forth. He said, she said stuff going on with that. But doesn't really matter what NATO and Ukraine think. What really matters is what Russia thinks. And after all of this, the announcement and the voting and stuff, Russia basically came out and said they are going to defend that territory, even, and everybody's favorite word, even if it requires them using nuclear warfare. The nuclear talk is back. It kind of took a break there for a little while. We heard it a couple months ago. Everybody's throwing around nukes. Oh, we're going to use nukes. Oh, they're not going to do it. Da 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 da. Well, now the talk is back, and they're putting it back on the table, saying they will defend that territory by any means necessary, including their nuclear warheads, because Russia will consider those territories as Russian territory. So if you attack those regions, you're, in Russia's mind, you're basically attacking them. You're attacking their territory. Russia also came out again and specifically mentioned Poland being the target for the nukes. This was one of the defense secretaries in Russia. They said they wouldn't nuke Ukraine, which that makes sense because they want to basically swallow up Ukraine. They want that territory, so why would they nuke that? So they're talking about just nuking the other countries, and specifically mentioned Poland as one of the targets on that. So we've got partial mobilization from Russia. We've got the annexation referendum going for the 4 regions, which they all voted in favor of, which they should be a part of Russia as October 4th. And then on top of that, the talk of nukes has come out and basically said, if you attack that territory, we will nuke you. Very interesting. Also, about the same time, we've got the Serbian president, Alexander Vučić, warning of a great world conflict within the next 2 months. He said it will be similar to that of World War II. If you don't know, with Serbia, Vučić is connected to Russia in many ways. They really have a good relationship between the two. Russia always offers their protection to Serbia and whatnot, and Serbia tends to have an in on these things. Again, I'm not putting much weight on just talking, because we've heard months and months and months of talking before, and we're still kind of where we were at then. So, but still, it's worth paying attention to something like that being spoken about the same time as there's actual movement happening with the Russian area. So definitely something to keep in mind on that. So that's kind of the update on what's going on with the Russia and Ukraine stuff. We've actually got some type of movement here which may point to an escalation. We don't know. It's all a part of God's timing, and we're just kind of waiting to see what's going on with that. Now, I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I might as well just talk about it now, just to kind of throw these things together, because they might be connected in some way. We're really the event with the Nord Stream explosions. There's a lot of questions on this. There's a lot of information we don't know about. If anybody is coming out and saying this is what's going on, this is the fact, this is how it is regarding this situation, I would ignore everything they're saying, because right now there is way too much stuff up in the air. But I might as well just jump ahead to it and throw it on. So something that happened today was 3 large explosions on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream is one of those pipelines that we've talked about quite a bit we've talked about a lot, actually, because that was the main source of natural gas going into Europe from Russia, and they shut it off a while ago. There's that whole back and forth of, we just need to repair it. You're not allowing us to repair it. And then Russia finally just shut it off, and it's been off ever since. So first of all, that's one of the questions right off the bat, is you've got Nord Stream 1, which was already shut off. And then you've got Nord Stream 2, which was never in operation. It was built, but it was never turned on. Germany was basically holding back from allowing that to turn on. So you've got two pipelines sitting there. Neither one is working, and they were blown up. So that's really one of the questions going on. But just some facts that we do know about this is a natural event like an earthquake or a landslide was ruled out. And it's pretty unanimous. This was an actual sabotage attack. It was an actual explosion. Somebody had to do this attack. There's no way a natural event could do the damage that it did. Keep in mind the specific dimensions of this pipeline, the Nord Stream piping itself. The pipe is 1.6 inches thick steel, so straight steel, 1.6 inches of steel, and it's reinforced with another coat of 4-inch steel reinforced concrete. So you've got 1.6 inches of straight steel, and then you've got 4 inches of steel reinforced concrete around it. So an earthquake is not going to do that. You would need serious firepower to bust a hole in that thing. Specifically, 3 of them, like they did. Both Sweden and Denmark registered powerful subsea blasts in the same areas as the leak, confirming that it was explosions. These are subsea blasts. These are not like Richter scale for earthquakes. These were actual blasts that had to take place. So both Sweden and Denmark confirmed that. Now, this is where it gets weird. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets to, I don't like the term because it's a CIA created term, but this is kind of where you start getting into conspiracy stuff. But this is information that's coming out. Number one, last summer, the CIA had already warned Germany against an attack on the pipeline. So the US CIA told Germany that there's a chance that there's going to be an attack on the pipelines. That was in summer. Back on February 7th, 2022, this was before Russia went into Ukraine, Biden made an announcement and said that if Russia invades, then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We'll bring an end to it. So that's where the question comes in, is the U.S. following up on that threat that they made? Because they said if Russia went into Ukraine, they'll bring an end to Nord Stream 2. Then you have the question of, okay, what about Nord Stream 1? They never said anything about that. So you've got that going on. Plus, there was another announcement about the same time. I don't remember who it was. It was a lady involved with the U.S. administration, and she also reinforced the same thing where they will end Nord Stream 2 if it was to happen. So there was 2 times that was publicly put out. Then there are several tweets by a Polish government official. His name is Radek Sikorski, and he seems to be playing devil's advocate because he was pointing to the U.S. as the one who did the damage to the pipeline. He tweeted a picture of the leak and with the words saying, "Thank you, USA." And he also retweeted the video of Biden that we just talked about threatening the Nord Stream 2 if Russia was to go in. So we've got a Polish government official doing that. Then, if it's not weird enough, we've got the German economy minister Habeck. He warned speculations about the reason for Nord Stream 1 leak are currently forbidden. So he's basically saying you can't speculate anything about the leak. Something doesn't add up with this. There's a whole bunch of different questions you could take with this. We've got Western media. I mean, they're fully on saying Russia did it, which my question is, Russia has already weaponized their pipeline. Why would they want to blow up their own pipeline? I don't know. Then you've even got the Kremlin coming out saying it's obvious sabotage. So you got Russia coming out saying it's sabotage. Then you got Poland saying it was the U.S. who did it. You've already got the threats from the U.S. about it. Then you've got Germany basically saying you can't speculate about it. Who did it? Why? All these questions. Something doesn't add up. But the main question I have isn't who did it. I mean, that's obviously a good question, but that's not the main one. The one I want to know is why. Where is this heading? What happens next after this? It's very interesting that this happened right at the same time as the mobilization and the referendum voting. And I mean, there's so many things going about this. I'm not going to sit here and pretend at all that I have any idea where this is going. I see way too many avenues right now where I can just sit there and say, I think it's going to be this. I'm just stepping back and looking at what's going. I want to know what's going to happen next. Because maybe what happens next, we can start filling in some of these questions. Well, yeah, to start a war, yeah, obviously. But I'm saying there's other steps that are going to happen. They're not just going to start, grenades getting lobbed because of that. Something else is going to happen. And we just got to see what's going to happen. What's also curious about this that also happened is right after this event, just several hours after this event, Gazprom, everybody knows Gazprom, issued a warning of a risk that Moscow will sanction Ukraine's naftogaz company. This will block any transit fee payments, which would risk gas flows to Europe via Ukraine. So something else to keep in mind. Nord Stream 1 wasn't the only pipeline going from Russia into Europe supplying gas. They've also got several that go through Ukraine. We've actually heard a few reports that Ukraine kept turning on and off those pipelines. Well, now they're talking about if Russia sanctions this company will no longer be able to pay the transit fees to Russia, which means chances are Russia would turn that pipeline off as well. So, I don't know. There is a lot of questions with this. Where it goes from here, what happens next, I don't know. Who did it, I don't know. There's stuff that points to many different people that could have done it. Right now, the ones that seem to be the most in frame are the United States, which I've heard some stuff that the U.S. could possibly benefit from this because by blowing that up, oil prices go up, and then the U.S. will increase, or not the oil, but the gas prices will go up, and U.S. will increase gas into Europe. I don't know. Again, there's a bunch of questions. That's what we do know. That's what we do know as far as that goes. I'm curious what's going to happen next. I don't know what's going to happen next. So things seem to be moving pretty quick on that front, though. So maybe something will happen by the end of the week. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated the best I possibly can. I might plug it again. Again, get on my Telegram. That is where I update the most as far as everyday stuff. So if you're not there, get on there. All right. So moving on. That's all I got as far as that goes. Let's talk about some of the natural events going on. We've had a few large quakes take place. If you remember last week, there was a huge 7.6, 7.8, something like that, earthquake in Mexico. Well, they just had a follow-up shock, aftershock, a 6.8 quake in the same region, Michoacan, Mexico. I don't know. I don't speak French. Then there was a 6.1 quake in Los Lagos, Chile, a 6.2 quake in Aceh Indonesia, okay, I'll say. I don't know. Again, I don't speak Spanish. 5.7 quake in the Recanese Ridge, and then a 5.3 quake in the Recanese Ridge. Recanese Ridge, we pay attention because there's volcanoes there. As far as volcanoes, we've got 50 volcanoes actively erupting right now, so we're up 2 from last week. So we're still hovering around the 48 to 50 range. We haven't really gotten out of that range recently. So some of the other stuff as far as natural events, the big one is Hurricane Ian that has passed over Cuba and is heading towards the Tampa Fort Myers range, and it's sitting at a Cat 3 right now. They said it could possibly hit Cat 4, but right now it's sitting at a Category 3. I think that's supposed to hit Thursday or Friday, I think. I could be wrong. Either way, I know they've got a bunch of people evacuated. I think they got like 2 million people, 2.5 million people evacuated in preparation for Hurricane Ian. Then there was another super typhoon that hit the Philippines. Japan got hit by 2 last week. And then the Philippines also got hit by 1 super typhoon, Noru. That also hit the Philippines as well. And then Nigeria is basically underwater. They got hit with the worst floods in decades. Over 100,000 people displaced, over 300 dead, over 500 injured. It was actually so bad, it actually washed away 1,500 graves from the cemeteries. And thousands upon thousands of acres of farmland has been lost. So you got lives being affected by that, and then you've also got an attack on the food system with that. They're just completely underwater, kind of like what's going on in Pakistan. So something else to pay attention. Usually if you have water sitting like that, you're getting ready for the waterborne diseases, just like what Pakistan is dealing with. So keep that in mind. Be praying for the people of Nigeria. Speaking of diseases, we've got a possible serious problem brewing out of Uganda. An actual disease that can kill, that's for sure. Uganda is dealing with an outbreak of Ebola. This is the rare strain of Ebola. It's the Sudan strain. And so far, they've got 36 cases with 23 deaths. This broke out about a week and a half ago, so that's pretty quick that this happened. Uganda is under a high-risk alert as the spread and the deaths are starting to gain momentum rather than slowing, so they don't have this contained yet. It's actually gaining momentum, which is not what you want to see with something like Ebola. The WHO, the WHO, they also warned of international spread as of the active cross-border travel that happens in that region. It's really frequent, so they're really telling everybody to pay attention to what's going on the borders. But they say the risk is still pretty low right now for actually breaking out of Uganda. That's if you believe anything coming from the WHO. You just never know with them. But Ebola is something that you definitely don't want to mess around with, that's for sure. Now, with the COOF restrictions basically going away everywhere, so much so that even Canada announced that they're getting rid of the whatchamacallit, the mask restrictions, those are going away, as well as you won't need a vitamin passport in order to get into Canada. So even Canada, of all places, is now getting rid of their COOF restrictions, which you're starting to see that everywhere. They're starting to, it's almost like it doesn't exist anymore, which is really kind of weird because it was one of those things where everybody was thinking that they're going to use this somehow, but now it's almost going away. So what are they doing? Are they changing course? Did they get the information and the stuff done out of that they wanted to do? Are they just preparing for something even worse, possibly Ebola? I don't know. There's a bunch of questions with this. The fact is they had a reason why they did it, and they have a reason why they're getting rid of this stuff now. So what's going to be the next play as far as this goes? Is Ebola something that they're going to do? We know monkeypox is still going on. Nobody's really talking about that. I'm still paying attention to the monkeypox thing. I still have the timetable that they had for the tabletop exercise for monkeypox. The numbers are still pretty low to where they're going to be next on the timetable in January. So I don't know if they're going to be doing something with that. But you still got monkeypox going on out there. You've got the Ebola thing going on in Uganda. Maybe something's going to happen with that. But they're going to need a mass reduction in some way, if you catch my drift. They're going to need a mass reduction in some way. Numbers, reducing numbers, if you catch my drift. Whether it's a medical problem or another way, is flipping the switch, like what we're seeing in Europe and what's coming here. People don't realize what is happening in Europe for those who are actually paying attention to what's going on in Europe, because a lot of people really don't understand what's going on out there. But that's working its way here. It's on its way here. So how are they going to do this reduction? Are they going to do it through the medical stuff, or are they going to do it through flipping the switch? This is the question. Or are they going to use both? You just never know. We're going to talk about that for sure. So much stuff coming to a head, and yeah, weird how monkeypox went silent. Yeah, nobody's really talking about monkeypox. That was the big news for like 3 weeks, and then just went quiet. So it's kind of weird. It's still going on. The CDC still has their monkeypox tracker. If you want to follow along with that, that's kind of where I'm getting updated on that stuff. But as far as reducing numbers, medical is doing work on that now. That's all I can say on that. I can't talk about any of that stuff on here, but believe me when I tell you the vitamin stuff has been working wonders with its original intent, if you catch my drift. But the other thing now is what's going on in Europe, flipping the switch for the energy, the power. Europe is collapsing. Europe is collapsing right in front of our eyes, and most don't even have a clue. I will tell you what, I cannot believe, like when I'm doing all this research and I'm going through things, most of these places have places where you can leave comments and whatnot, and people just don't have any idea what's going on with Europe. I don't know if I think it's a mix of things where they're not. First of all, a lot of them don't care. The other aspect is a lot of them, they're so wrapped up in Western propaganda where it doesn't matter what you tell them, Putin bad, all this stuff, and they really don't know what's going on, because a lot of them, they'll say, oh well, Europe just announced that they've got like 90% of their stockpile for the winter and whatnot, but they're not paying attention to what's going around it, the closing of businesses, what's going to happen after winter, the prices that's going on, the energy prices, the fact that people are either having to choose to heat or eat, heat their homes or eat their food, the devastation that's going to come from all that. There's a lot of the production, the economy itself is collapsing because of it. People don't realize what is going on in Europe. And, I've said some things where it's like the energy Armageddon for Europe, and I'm not joking. That's not something that I play around with. Europe is literally collapsing in front of our eyes, and people don't understand. You've got tenfold increases in gas and electricity prices, and we're seeing German businesses going insolvent every single day. There's a lot of information that I'm coming across every single day where I'm finding new businesses announcing their closure, their bankruptcy, their insolvency every single day. I don't pass that stuff along to you guys because, I would just flood you like a broken record with just this business and that business and that factory and just it's every single day because of the prices of gas and electricity that's happening. Over 20% of all of Europe's steel mills now sit idle. You're talking 20% of all of Europe, not one country, all of Europe, 20% of their steel mills are done, have stopped. 20%. That is a huge number. That is a huge amount because you've got that affects the economy, that affects the supply, that affects the jobs. People lose their jobs because of it. That affects all of that stuff. 20% of all of Europe's steel mills. That also doesn't include the aluminum plants, the zinc plants, the copper plants, and the silver mills. All of those are also reaching the same idle numbers as the steel mills. All of that production is collapsing. It's just falling apart. Uniper, I kind of made mention of this last week, but Uniper, Germany's energy giant, was losing over 100 million euro a day and was forced to be nationalized, which I told you guys what nationalized means. That's basically the government stepping in and just taking control of that company. They try and spruce it up. Oh, well, we made a deal, where they're still going to be making money. We're going to pay them for it. Doesn't matter. They're going in and seizing control of a private utility company. And so they were forced to be nationalized by Germany. So Uniper, Germany's largest energy supplier, is now nationalized. It's now owned by the government. And then you've got France. Speaking of nationalization, you've got France. France is now preparing to take over 84% of state-owned nuclear energy by nationalizing here we go with the French. Electricité de France, EDF, we'll just say EDF. So France is now nationalizing 84% of the state-owned nuclear power. They are nationalizing EDF. And then Germany, going back to Germany, is also nationalizing SEFE, previously known as Gazprom Germania. So now Germany is taking control of that utility company. You guys starting to see the trend that's going on? Do you guys kind of piecing together how all this works? Is they're creating this energy crisis that not only will collapse the economy, will not only destroy what's going on with the people and their lives, destroying small businesses, but now they're using this opportunity to go in and just start taking control of essential utility companies. They're going in and taking control of all of this stuff. So by going in and nationalizing all of these things, you are now taking, you're putting chains upon the people that live there. We've always talked about with Henry Kissinger, his famous quote where he says, if you control the people or control the food, you control the people. Well, they're kind of doing that with energy, because if you can control energy, you not only control the food, but you also control everything else around there. You control the oil, you control the medical, you control the food, you control the production, you control everything. And I've always told you guys that energy is the key to all of this. Energy is the thing that it holds everything. So if you take care of that, take care of energy, you gain control of everything. So they're using this crisis that they created and they're controlling to do this. You destroy the small private businesses and you nationalize the necessities, energy, medical, and food. Take control of all that stuff. You got chains on the people. Now there's this stigma. There's this stigma that this is the and something that I talk about all the time. I'm not going to get into a rant. I told myself I wouldn't do it. But these politicians that everybody hates, that everybody's calling stupid and dumb, and they're the ones that they don't know what they're doing and they're making dumb decisions, these people aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. There's a reason why they're in place. They are puppets. They're not controlling anything. They're just doing what they're told to do. These people are not stupid. They know what they're doing. Most people are distracted because, oh, they made a dumb decision. They're not fixing what they're supposed to be fixing. And then they just start hurling insults at them, and they're paying more attention to the face rather than who's controlling the face. These people aren't stupid. They're not making dumb decisions. They're being told what to do, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. These are strategic decisions. It's all planned destruction. They're not going to fix this stuff. So how do you reduce the numbers and bring in those bring those who are still alive on their knees? How do you bring them to their knees? You do it through energy. Because if you control energy, you control everything else. And they're doing this. We're seeing them pull this power and heat away from people right before winter. That's the other aspect of this, the timing of this. Right before winter. And speaking of winter, there's actually going to be a cold front that's going to be heading right into Europe much earlier than anticipated. It's actually going in at the end of this week. There's going to be a massive cold front going in to Europe ahead of schedule. So they're going to be testing the energy aspect of things and how people are going to react to it, because that's going to cause a spike in people to use their heaters, and you're going to start having blackouts. It's the blackouts that are the danger. It is the blackouts that are the danger. We will talk about that in a second. Now, more and more decisions are being made which many believe to be, again, stupid choices by the dumb politicians. But for us, because we know what's going on, we know exactly what's being done. Some of the other things going on that you might not find in the mainstream media. You've got the Netherlands has refused to up their natural gas production. Belgium and Germany are continuing to close their nuclear plants. I actually just put that on my Telegram a couple days ago. Belgium announced that they're going to be closing another nuclear plant. France has voted opposition to a new gas pipeline to Spain. France is also running out of wood, and pellet prices have begun tripling, and logs are up 20% as a wood shortage is starting to set in to France. Then you've got Hungary that is stirring the pot between the other countries, causing some serious infighting between all of Europe. All this stuff's going on. Add in the fact that US and Canada are refusing to help, understandably so, because the US is already dealing with a natural gas shortage. That's something else that I don't think that people really understand what's going on. The media is not reporting on it. The U.S. is now in a natural gas shortage. The same thing that Europe was dealing with early on. They're much, much further into that shortage now. But we're now starting to enter the exact same territory that Europe was in before things got catastrophic over there. The reason why we're dealing with a natural gas shortage is because we have drastically increased the shipment of natural gas into Europe. We've been sending all of our natural gas to Europe, which now puts us in a shortage. You'll also notice that this is very similar to the draining of our SPR fuel resources. You know, the SPR that we use for military time and for shortages, mass shortages. Well, we've been draining that. I've talked about that a couple times, where we've been selling that off to Europe and to China. We've been selling off our fuel reserves to Europe and China. So we've been doing the same thing with the natural gas, just like we were doing with the SPR. Shale producers, the ones that do the natural gas, are running at max capacity to meet both domestic and international demand, but they cannot up their production anymore. This also leads to equipment breaking down because due to them running it for a consistent max pressure for an extended period of time. So that will cause things to break down, and it also creates less cooldown times and maintenance periods. So if you're running at max capacity for that long, there's going to be less cooldown times where they shut it down and they run it at a very bare minimum for a while to reduce the stress, and then they use that time for maintenance. That also shortens those periods. So you're going to have stuff start breaking down. We've actually seen quite a few of these things happen with the oil producers with their equipment. They were running things at max capacity for so long. All of a sudden you started hearing about oil plants exploding all over the United States. That's what was going on, is because they upped it so much and ran it so intense for so long that everything started breaking down. We're now going to have that issue with natural gas. Welcome to Europe, everybody. That's what we're going to be doing. So just wait until these shale producers, all their stuff starts breaking down. We're going to be just like Europe. Now, we talked about the blackouts. Massachusetts, it might be starting with Massachusetts in the United States. But first things first is, speaking of the natural gas, the same thing that was going on in Europe with the increase in prices of electricity and whatnot. The National Grid of Massachusetts announced their winter charge, so they always increase their electric prices for winter, obviously because people use their heaters much more. National Grid of Massachusetts announced their winter charge with a massive spike of 22.4 cents per kilowatt hour. That is averaging now about 48 cents per kilowatt hour. If that's just like a random number, like, okay, that's what Europe is running on right now. That drastic increase, that ridiculous amount of money to pay per kilowatt hour, that is what Massachusetts just announced. It's exactly what's going on. And I'm telling you that they're not going to be the only one that starts hiking their prices. That wave is going to start going across the United States. So the same prices that Europe is paying for has now just hit Massachusetts. And so now the next step coming is the blackouts. This is where things get dangerous. There's a difference between having shortage and then having, high prices and stuff like that. That's all really bad stuff. But the blackouts is where the danger comes. We're seeing the London banks preparing for extended blackout periods. They're trying to figure out how they're going to keep their banking system going because of the blackouts. Germany is setting up heating halls. Those are public places where you can go and you can get in where there's heaters for everybody. And you can get in for, depending on how long they set it up, it could be like 10 minutes, it could be an hour. But public heating halls, so people who don't have electricity and blackouts can go and get warm. That's the same stuff that happened during like the World War II era and whatnot. There was heating halls. There was heating halls during the Great Depression in the United States as well. All that. So Germany's setting up heating halls, and towns in Austria, small towns, are setting up large public signs with dates for blackouts listed. I actually posted one of those pictures on my Telegram as well, where it's a picture of this giant sign that they put in a public place letting people know that there's going to be blackout dates on these specific times. They're already preparing for it. Blackouts, again, this is where the danger comes in. This is where everything gets bad. During the winter, if you don't have heat, people start getting sick. The elderly, their immune system's crashed. If you also notice, everybody's on vitamins now. Their immune system is already out of whack. You start bringing in cold weather, things start getting very, very bad for people. So that's another aspect to the whole medical and energy connection as well. Something to keep in mind. But blackouts are so dangerous, especially during winter, that simulations are now being run to prepare for the impact that will come from them. They're starting to run simulations for certain areas in Europe to determine how bad things will get if there's extended periods of blackouts. Germany's Hessen Rangau Taunus, I don't know, district had a specialist company run a simulation for their district for an extended period of blackouts. The numbers ain't good. The simulation came back with over 400 dead in the first 96 hours. 96 hours of blackouts in that one district. That's not all of Germany. That's that one district in Germany. Over 400 dead in the first 96 hours. After 24 hours, the first 24 hours, the livestock begin to die. Substations began falling apart, and the water tanks were already dry. That's in the first 24 hours of a blackout in that district during winter. Within the first 48 hours, mass unrest was simulated. Mass looting, murder, and arson, a lot of fires, were simulated to break out, and it would only collapse further from there to the point where in 96 hours, full societal collapse began. Because there's no power. There's nothing in winter. German winter. In that one district, they ran the simulation. While a lack of gas would be devastating, its elongated blackouts is where civilization starts to break down. Really, you're starting to go back to the Stone Age because everything is so heavily relied upon electricity. Everything that we have now, that's good old technology for you. You got to plug everything in. The consequences are much more devastating. You're talking about internet, landlines, heating, and refrigeration immediately go down. So the moment the blackout happens, all that stuff goes down. Try and picture several days of no internet, landline, heating, and refrigeration in a German winter. Then it's also followed by gas stations running out of gas, grocery stores running out of groceries, and medical and emergency services offline. Yes, there's backup generation or generators and whatnot, but you can only run that for so long, especially since you're already short on gas and oil. What are you going to use to run those generators? So that stuff starts going. Cell service then goes out. GPS is out. The food starts going bad. And then, of course, there's no more shipments as the big rig trucks can no longer deliver anything because there's no gas for them to deliver. So now, after everybody ransacks the grocery stores, you've got no more food because all the shipments have stopped. So you are now no longer heating or eating at that point. Now, everyone is talking about a cyber attack, which very well could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. But you can collapse all of society and the financial sector with just flipping the energy switch. You wouldn't need a cyber attack. If you're looking to bring an entire country down, you wouldn't need a cyber attack to do it. All you would need to do is just flip the energy switch, turn everything off, and you could just take it all out at the exact same time, every bit of it. Again, I'm not saying a cyber attack won't happen. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if they want to take an entire country down, that's how they could do it. All digital payment systems go down, all of the stock markets and everything collapses, and the banking systems go down. It would destroy everything. So if they're looking to just take everything down all at once, that's a lot of birds with just one stone, is just by flipping that switch. I don't think, and this was even myself before I started looking into this stuff. Like, I know that when a blackout happens for an extended period of time, especially like in the winter, I know things get really bad. Like really, really bad. Death will start happening and, unrest and stuff. But when you start laying everything out to the point of you just turn off the energy and all of that just goes away, everything from internet to food to emergency services, all of it just goes away. It really puts perspective around how devastating that would be for that to happen. So this is the path that Europe is going on. This is the track that Europe is on right now. And people have no idea. The people in Europe, I think, have a pretty firm grasp on that. Even then, I still don't think they fully understand what's coming. But they definitely have a much firmer grasp on it than the Americans here. That's for sure. We really don't have any idea what's about to happen in Europe because it hasn't started getting cold yet. And they're already going through some serious Armageddon type catastrophes on this. Just wait until it gets cold. Pray for the souls of those in Europe, for them to find Jesus. Because when the lights start going out, it's there's no coming back from that. Just saying. So, yeah, fun times. All right. Okay, let's see here. So, let's give an update on what is going on with Israel's Karish gas rig. Again, guys, I can't tell you how important this thing is. This is very important. We got to pay attention to what's going on with this thing. So, with all of that going on with Europe, it does sound like the perfect opportunity for Israel to come in and start rescuing Europe. This obviously would aggravate Russia, so very important that we pay attention to that. So the Karish gas deal, this agreement that is being hammered out between Israel and Lebanon. Again, they're still in the final stages. When it comes to this stuff, it takes them forever because if a country doesn't agree with one word, they got to try and do it. That's politics for you. But this thing still is on track to get the agreement done. This agreement, however, is starting to make ripples across the Eastern Mediterranean as the countries are viewing this agreement as an interest boost in the region to become the Russian replacement. This is where it starts getting very interesting as far as how deep of a hit to Russia is this going to be. Israel is working on this agreement, working on this massive deal here, which all of the other countries in the area are viewing it as the opportunity, the starting point to officially become the replacement for Russia's gas. You have to remember, Russia's gas is that's one of the main contributors to their economy, is they ship gas to everybody. They're involved with everything on this. And so now Israel is creating the foundation to basically sweep Russia away. Go away. Shoo now. We're going to take over as the world's gas supplier. That's a huge thing to pay attention to because these are the other countries in the area that are viewing it this way. So I'm sure Russia is paying very close attention to it. Countries for years have proposed plans for pipelines and cables just to create a giant network web of pipelines and cables on the seabed of the Mediterranean to tap the prosperous gas network, but every attempt has been met with geopolitical tension. So there's been multiple countries for decades who have been trying to tap all of the gas resources at the Mediterranean, but they've always met a brick wall because some other country doesn't want them to do it. They're saying, oh, no, that's our territory. You can't do it. So there's always some type of geopolitical issue that's going on. And if you don't realize it, the Mediterranean has a bunch, a massive amount of gas available there. We see what's happening with Turkey and Greece. We've just talked about that the past couple of weeks, where the gas territory is actually the heart of the feud. So if you don't realize it, Greece and Turkey have been fighting for a long time. There's other stuff going around where it's like you're not supposed to have that island. Oh, you can have the island, but you can't militarize it. All this stuff going back and forth. But the heart of it is actually the territory of the gas stuff for them. That's where the feud is coming at. Each country claims gas deposits on the seabed, but neither can agree on who actually owns it. So that's where all this fighting is going. That's why even France is getting involved as Turkey continues to move more and more into the area of Greece. Greece and France are getting irritated because they're not supposed to be doing that. It's always a fight that's going on there. So we've got that going on. Then we've got Cyprus has also discovered there's major gas deposits but can't drill because the Greek Cypriot government won't agree with the Turkish-controlled North Cyprus government on the resource division. So you've got these two governments fighting at each other, basically saying, well, that's our territory. No, that's not your territory. That's our territory. So we can no, you can't. So they can't agree on who owns what, how to distribute the resources and the payments among it. So nobody can drill because they're always fighting among themselves. That's why everybody is looking at the agreement between Israel and Lebanon, because if they can come to an agreement and terms on that, especially since they're really not in the business of being too friendly to each other. If they can come to an agreement on this, that's again the starting point for all of these other ones to do the same thing, because then they can all kind of band together and replace Russia on what's going on. So the agreement between Israel and Lebanon is being viewed as the first major step for gas stability in the region, which could lead to outright replacing Russian gas entirely. Do you really think that Russia wants that to happen? This isn't just about saving Europe anymore. This is now about Israel starting the wave of replacing Russia and their economy. That is a reason for Russia to get their goons together to go and invade Israel and all of the wondrous gas deposits there. We know that in Ezekiel 38, the invasion will be involved going after riches, spoils, and prosperity. What do you think all that gas deposits are? That is spoils beyond spoils. If Israel taps a prosperous Mediterranean seabed, brings stability to the gas drilling, and starts the replacement of Russia's gas empire, I see that as one gigantic hook in the jaw of Russia. Again, this isn't just about replacing the Russian gas to Europe. This is about replacing the Russian gas network altogether. I honestly, when I was doing research on all this stuff, I never understood how deep this could go. I always viewed it as, well, that it's Israel coming in and thwarting the plans of what they're doing to Europe and whatnot. But this is a massive blow that would take place. That gas production would begin, again, is going to begin any time. They're just trying to get the final details of the equipment and the analytics and the defense, because Hezbollah is still sitting there with their rockets locked on and whatnot. So it's going to begin at any time. They're still going to do it, even if the agreement isn't finalized, which, again, that's still going very well. But they said they're going to begin production even if that's not agreed to yet. And so it's going to begin anytime soon. And we're also getting reports that the Israeli Prime Minister Lapid has begun security talks for the rig as they're getting ready to turn it on. So they're just getting all the security and defense ready for the rig for when they turn it on. And then, again, Hezbollah has their warnings of they're going to start launching rockets at the thing. So they're getting the security stuff finalized and whatnot. And I've actually seen several reports over the past couple of days of multiple security meetings to make sure everything is going according to plan. So that's what's going on with the Israeli Karish gas rigs. So that is some serious business that's going on as far as that goes. So, all right. I think that's all I got for the energy and whatnot and that stuff. We already talked about the Nord Stream stuff. So, we just got one last thing we are going to talk about. Just one last thing. And that is the selling of prosperity that is going on in the church. I know everybody knows the prosperity gospel and the prosperity preachers and all that stuff. And I know that that's pretty well known, but it is a lot bigger than people really think. In these times, these last days, these end times, the push to fill the God-shaped hole is being used as a business model. They are taking this opportunity to snake their way in and sell things to people looking to fill, again, that God-shaped hole in them. And they're going and they're trying to sell them this stuff. It's been that way. It's been that way, and it's been going all the way back to the biblical times, just like we read in Acts 16, where Paul came across a possessed slave girl who was being used to tell fortunes so her masters could gain prosperity. We're not going to read it, but you can check it out there. That's basically the same aspect of this. Is they have used it to false miracles to get fortunes from people, because they're preying on people's that hole. People are looking for something to fill that empty space, and the only thing that can fill it is Jesus, but they're selling them a false Jesus. But today, the church has become an industry. It's become political. It's become an industry through false miracles and prosperity. So a week and a half ago, I posted on my Telegram. It was a picture of a book, and I told a story about an ad I saw from someone claiming that they could teach you how to prophesy. That was their claim. It's the same thing like you see with Bethel and whatnot, where they're actually trying to teach. They claim that they're teaching kids how to prophesy. They're teaching them to be fortune tellers, basically. And so this guy, he has an ad out there saying he can teach you how to prophesy. Not only is that a complete lie, but Revelation also warns us not to add anything to the book, to add anything to that book. It is confirming that the only prophecy that we have is already given to us. This aspect of this idea that that people have that ability to prophesy it's not here. And it's one of those things where if somebody says, "Oh, I've prophesied, God gave me something," okay, does it match what Scripture says? If it doesn't, then that's not from God. If it does match what Scripture says, who cares? Why do you need it? Because it's already in Scripture. There's your litmus test on this. If it matches the Bible, it's not, or if it doesn't match the Bible, it's not from God. If it does match the Bible, you don't need it because it's already in the Bible. So no, you can't teach people how to prophesy, and this also isn't the apostolic age where that stuff doesn't happen anymore. We're in the church age. Things are different. There's no more apostles. If you ever come across somebody who claims to be an apostle, run, because they're not. They're liars. That's just how it is. And there's a ton of people out there that claim to be apostles. I'll tell you what. They're everywhere. But so this guy is claiming that he can teach you how to pray. It's the same thing as people who claim, "I can teach you tongues." Really? Okay, show me in the Bible where that happens. And then also, what about the fact of not only is it tongues, but there needs to be an interpreter along with them? They always forget the interpreter part, and the Bible is pretty specific about that. So whenever you come across that, also run. You do a lot of running now. I don't know if you've noticed. We should all be in good shape when we get up to heaven, because I think we're working our spiritual bodies by running from all this stuff. But I did a search of the guy's name. So after I found this ad, I did a search of the guy's name. His name is Keith Ferrante. And the very first thing to pop up was his book titled Five-Fold Entrepreneur: Bridging the Gap Between Vocational Ministry and Business. He's basically teaching you how to be a snake oil salesman, how to use the title Christian and to use the Bible for monetary profit. He's teaching you how to sell God's word and Christianity through false miracles and lies. That's what it is. These snakes understand the Christian market is perfect for their charlatan snake oil salesman routine because the modern Christian is looking for God through anything that isn't actually God. They're trying to find God through everything else except the one thing that you can find God through. They don't want that. They want the experience. They want what's flashy. They don't want that stuff. So they're looking through God through anything that isn't God. They're trying to fill a hole not by Jesus Christ, but by a spiritual high that gives them that warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside, that experience that, because I feel it this way. It's all about me and what I can get out of it and what makes me feel good. It's the same approach, and I've told it countless times, and I'm going to keep on repeating it. It is the same approach by modern worship songwriters. You give a temporary emotional experience and sell it as the Holy Spirit. You create these songs built specifically to draw out emotion, and then you use them in a specific way, and it draws out this feeling, an emotional feeling in people, and then they claim that that's the Holy Spirit. I felt God. You didn't feel God. You felt a crafted emotional experience. That's what you felt. It's the same tactic. They're trying to sell these songs. Because if you don't know, these churches, when they use these songs by these churches, you have to have a CCLI license. And every time you sing the song at the end of the year, they take the tally of all of it and then they send a check to the church that made it. It's the exact same thing that these worship teams do. Your Elevation, your Bethel Hillsong, all of them. They've created an industry out of it. And it's the same principle that they're doing with this prosperity entrepreneur stuff. It's all about business. It's all about money. They understand their market. They know the modern churches and the people in them are not spiritually sound, not spiritually fed. If anything, they're on milk. If they even are there, they're not eating meat yet. And so they don't know any different. They're looking for something to fill that hole, and they're trying to do it through feeling something rather than doing it the way we're supposed to, through a scripture, through Jesus Christ. It's the same thing. It's the reason why people like Joel Osteen, Steve Furtick, Bill Johnson, T.D. Jakes, all these, I call them motivational preachers, just like a motivational speaker. It's a motivational preacher. That's why they're so popular. Everybody always asks the question, why are people so duped by this? Why do people like Joel Osteen get millions of people to watch? Because they're trying to fill that hole with something that sounds good. Because Joel Osteen, all he does is preach about you and what you can get out of it and how you can prosper and what it's like the books where it's like the 5 steps to, like a better life or whatever. That's what they're doing. So everybody is so honed in on that's what they want. People want to be lied to. That's something that I don't think people really understand. People don't want truth. People want to be lied to. They want their chin tickled. It's, a pat on the head. They want the lies. They don't want the truth. Because the truth it's hard. We are terrible sinful, wretched humans that deserve eternal death. People don't want to hear that. They want to hear what makes them feel good. You're a good person. You're a good person. If you just pray a certain amount of time and you give this much money, you'll have a prosperous life. They want what feels good. They want something that reinforces their pride and the feelings that they have. That's what they want. They don't want the truth. And that's why people like those guys are so popular, because people are trying to fill that hole with something that makes them feel good. There's a ton more out there, just like this Keith Fronte guy. There is a ton more out there that are doing the exact same thing. You'll find them in churches, and you'll also find them out with their books and their speakings and all that stuff. They're selling the lost and the unfulfilled people. Basically, the best way I can put it is spiritual cake, to jack them up on sugar, to get them on a sugar high, a spiritual sugar high, when in reality they need that rich protein-filled meat that is in Scripture. They need it through Jesus. But they don't want that. They want what's sweet. They want what gets them that high. And then everybody wonders, well, I've had that spiritual high. And then what happens after a sugar rush? It's a crash. Things start getting really bad. Then they start blaming God for it. Oh, well, it was only just a temporary high. Obviously, that's not, God's not real. Otherwise, I would be living high my entire life like that. That's where that comes from. It's that spiritual sugar high. And then as soon as they crash, they blame God. Everyone is looking to fill the God-shaped hole with anything they possibly can but God. They're looking to live their best life now, just like Joel Osteen, because for the most part, this life is the best it's ever going to be for them. That's a hard truth. They want the best life now because this is the best it's going to get for them. It's only going to go downhill from here. It's where we're at now. That's why I have the perspective, and I've actually offended quite a few Christians with it before, but I stand by it. I firmly believe that there's going to be more people left behind who believe that they were saved than those who are actually saved and taken up in the rapture. I think there's going to be more people left behind disappointed than those who actually get taken up. And I know that might be a cruel thing to say, but I just believe that that's going to be reality, because I believe the false teaching of a false Jesus has spread so far across the world that people believe in a false Christ, the one that can't save. There's only one true Christ, and that's the Christ in the Bible that can save. And many people aren't worshiping him. They're worshiping their homeboy, or they're worshiping the man upstairs, or they're worshiping their genie. And that's not Jesus. That's a false Jesus that cannot save. And this prosperity gospel, this teaching of business and ministry to get creating it's infected, cancerous, and it's not of God. It's not. So just be wary of that when you come across things like that. Don't get fooled by them. Do not be fooled by them. If it's not in Scripture, then ignore it. They can't teach you how to prophesy. They can't teach you how to do tongues. They can't teach you how to do any of the apostolic gifts. They can't teach you how to do any of that. Anything that they're selling as far as that go is either one, a lie, or two, they're teaching you how to channel some dark spirits that are definitely not of God. Sarah was talking about the Ouija board book. That's what that is. They're teaching you how to conjure up, how to summon, how to channel dark spirits. I'm not saying that's every case, because there's a lot of them out there that just, give you the run around, stuff where it's, teaching you to be a fortune teller and whatnot. But there are some out there like Bethel that are teaching you how to conjure up spirits that can possess. So be watchful. Definitely be watchful of that, especially in these times. Especially in these times, because it's thick. It's definitely out there thick right now. So, all right, guys, that's all I got. That is all I got. So, glad you guys could join me. Glad you guys were here. Hopefully, you got something out of this. Hopefully, it brought glory to the Lord. That's why we do this. It brings glory to the Lord. So, but yeah, usual spiel, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Share this out. I'm really trying to get this to grow. So I definitely want to spread it out and reach more people, because I know there's people out there that have questions. They want to know what's going on, and I think I can help answer some of those questions. And so that's why we do this, for that. So, but yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Keep an eye out for, the clip videos and other things I'm putting out. Make sure you're on my Telegram channel. I put a lot of good news, breaking news on that. Sometimes little comedic things, just to kind of keep things upbeat and whatnot. So I always throw that stuff out there. So get on my Telegram channel and whatnot. All that stuff. Yeah, I think that's everything. So, but yeah, so glad you guys can join me. Hopefully, and I pray so every day, this is going to be the last Tuesday and the Lord comes and gets us. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready to go home. Ready to go home for sure. So, but yeah, that's all I got. And if we're still here next Tuesday, same time, same place, all that jazz. So I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.